No. Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoble, and you are on the Lifeboat. It is a Sunday morning. Snot phase. Good to see you. Candy's Life and Mock Buddy. Valerie, good to see you. Hello, CK. Let's see who else we got. Mind Games. Always a pleasure. Diana, how are you? Charlie Murphy, subscriber number 1 again. Hey, honey. Glad that you're here. Good morning. Zenwan. I think I covered everyone that's not lurking. Now, to those of you who are lurking, welcome to the Lifeboat. Hey, Borderline. Welcome to the Lifeboat. Sal, good morning. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that is. I was told there'd be no pronunciation drills. Lynn. Is that Lynette? Did Lynette just change up her? Lynette, how you doing? Hello from New Zealand. We have a lot of people from New Zealand, believe it or not. A big group of people from New Zealand and Australia. It's crazy. I'm doing okay. I'm having a couple of issues. But you know what? Everybody at all times is having a couple of issues, right? Good morning, Narcoleptic Chihuahua Productions. It's not often you get to say those 3 words in a sentence, right? Narcoleptic Chihuahua Productions. Something tells me that it was probably a lot of fun the day that you came up with that. I would like to have been there for that moment. You know what I'm saying? I think that was probably a good one. So, Joe, the Joe that you know. Good to see you, Joe. Monk. Tommy C. Lady Tina Marie. Kathy, there you are. Now we can start. Hey, Russ. Twisted Sister Paranormal. You gotta love that. I love that Russ changed the second part of his handle to Taking Back Your Life. I absolutely love that. And it's really what we're trying to do, right? That's the goal with this whole sobriety thing and this whole living your best life thing, is that we're trying to take back control of our lives. And sadly, one of the biggest impediments to that going well, hello, Zelda, is that very often we can't set boundaries. And this is an issue. And I know that there are a lot of people watching this right now who are going, there is no chance that Tommy Scoble is going to do a show having the audacity to tell somebody how to set boundaries. Because I'll be really honest with you, I am hump at this. There are very few people on planet Earth worse at setting boundaries than I am. Like, this is really not my strong suit. And I'll tell you why. Because of what I do, right? You do get this kind of feeling sometimes, like if you don't work with somebody who is trying to reach out to you, that you're like, somebody trying to get into a lifeboat and you're kind of putting your foot on them, and you get that feeling, and that becomes an issue. And it becomes, I'm a great example because anytime you do anything and you're trying to give somebody an example, the macro is always great, right? If you can give somebody the example of the worst possible case scenario, then we should be able to back it off a notch and have it make a lot more sense to people who aren't living an unusual existence. But if you're just talking about within your family and your group of friends, you still need to set boundaries. And one of the biggest problems that we have when we get sober, especially if your life was a hot mess, if you were, and most addicts, their life's a hot mess. But some of us, right? If you're in and out of rehabs, or if you're in, you've been incarcerated, or if you've lost relationships, as you start coming out of that, we tend to come out as people pleasers, right? Whether we want to or not. And the people that have been on the Lifeboat a long time have watched me do some stupid things, just because I lack the ability sometimes to tell a person no, which is pretty sad, right? Especially when you're 6'2" and 210 pounds. You ought to be able to just go, no, I'm not doing this. But the problem is we feel so much guilt for all of the time in our lives when we said to somebody, I'm going to do this, and then we didn't do it, that we almost get to a point where anybody that asks us to do something, we kind of feel like we have to, we're sort of obliged to be this new version of ourselves. I really fell into this trap. Now I did it on a much larger scale. And when we first started out on the Lifeboat, it made a hell of a lot of sense. It really did. I mean, we had 6 or 7 people in live feeds, and you could really kind of do one-on-one, and you could just talk to the people and kind of do it there. And then there was just, as this built, I really got addicted to helping people, which I think is probably pretty normal, for people that do this, especially because what I do here is peer support, right? Really, all we're doing is trying to support people who are struggling through things that we have struggled through. We're not splitting any atoms, right? It's a pretty simple concept. It's just that it's not done too many other places online. And if it is, then they've got a slant, right? Like, we really want to help you get sober as long as you agree with us on this laundry list of crap I'm about to hand you. So if we agree on politics, religion, and everything else, then we might be willing to try to see if we can help you get sober. Well, that's not a great model. And sadly, it is pretty much the model. And in a lot of places, especially if it's peer support, then if you show up at the door with a buzz, you're definitely not invited, right? They do not want you anywhere near the sobriety meeting if you've had anything to drink or if you've done any drugs, in the last, say, 8 to 10 hours.
People out of the hospital.
It's kicking sick people out of the hospital. It's about the stupidest thing that you could possibly do. It makes absolutely no sense, right? None. But we wind up because of things like this. We look at brothers and sisters who are struggling, and we want so badly to help because we remember what it was like. And a lot of us fall into a pattern when we first get sober of really probably going over the top in your desire to be perfect to everybody, to be that person that everybody needs you to be. When I was living up north, I used to dog sit for one of the all-time great hounds, a golden retriever named Georgie. And if you've been on the boat, you remember Georgie. Georgie was just great. Just an awesome dog. But I used to dog sit for her all the time. And the owners of Georgie were getting on in years. And the husband would call me every once in a while and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And one time in particular, he said, "Could you come over and maybe help me on this deck? All I need you to do is kind of help me with these boards because they are ludicrously long." And they were. I mean, these things were like 30 feet long. Some of them were actually longer than that. It was unbelievable. And they're not real. It's just like a synthetic material or whatever. But trust and believe that I did not just need to lift a couple of these boards. In fact, I basically just helped him put in this deck, like did the other half of it. And the crazy thing is that at the time, the Lifeboat was doing some experimenting with exactly what the format was going to be. We knew we were all live by then, but we didn't know how much we were doing. And I think we were popping like 3 45-minute shows a day or something at that point. We're doing like 3 meetings, and I am running home from this dude's house in the hot sun, running inside and doing a Lifeboat meeting and feeling guilty that I had to leave the dude at his house, working on the thing alone. And I'm not good at saying no. I used to be fantastic at it. Like, it used to be my number one skill set. Hey, can you take care of this for me? Nah, probably not. Or I'd say yes and then just not do it. But I really came out of my years of addiction with a certain amount of guilt. Then on top of that, the way that I got sober also kind of, this was an individual who was willing to work with me. Didn't pay him anything, there was nothing like that. And but he was very, very clear about this whole pay it forward thing. Oh, come on now. Oh, did you see that?
Yeah.
That's the internet. That stinks. I can't stand it when the internet does that.
Is it bad?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't ever actually
Just
lose
flash.
anything. Yeah, it just kind of flashes, and it's a bit annoying, in all
You get to
honesty.
start where it's gonna happen.
Yeah, he started thinking about it. So Q really wanted me to pay this forward, and he was super clear, and that's I don't need money. I've been working for 30 years in here in bank and cash. What I want you to do is try to help other people, and I had intended to do something along those lines anyway. So that when we started on the internet part, you would think that setting boundaries on the internet would be a whole lot easier than it would be to set boundaries in person, right? Because if you have to look at somebody's face and say to them, you know what, right now I can't help you. Give you another great example, and this is maybe the only thing I've ever done well in terms of setting boundaries. And I'll give Mark Wages the lion's share of the credit for this one, but very, very early on in the boat, we had some people that found themselves in a bad way. And let's be really honest, people with our particular disease find themselves in a bad way pretty damn often, right? That's one of the symptoms of this disease is that you continue to do it even though bad things continue to happen over and over and over again, right? But we had a lot of people that tend to find themselves in those positions and would write in, send me a email and say, here's why I find myself in this financial position. And we would really love to do a GoFundMe page. Or maybe you could go up on the Lifeboat and just tell people that. And more than anything in the entire world, what you want to do is put up the GoFundMe page, get on the Lifeboat and say, hey, let me tell you a story. This person needs help, man. And they need it financially and they need it now. That would be great. But with 10,000 people, and by the way, don't do this even if you have 100 people. You can't do it because unfortunately we live in a world where we become targets instantly. And the boat has been targeted so many times by people that just see us as people with really big hearts. And you know what? We are people with really big hearts. So you really have to set boundaries. And, I've had people reach out to me and say, so-and-so really needs help. I'd say, you know what? Do not bring me into any of this. I would recommend that you be very, very careful, even if you know the person. This is the whole setting boundary thing, right? If you come out with the same attitude that I did, right? It's not a far stretch from, hey, could you come over and work for 8 hours to help me lay down a deck, right? Right, and then come back tomorrow because I just got a corner we got to knock off. Shouldn't take too long, right? Be done the next day by noon. It's not a stretch from there to,
Show my room.
hey, could you lend me 2 G's? And, and I'll try to get this back to you. I remember the last time that I went to a drug program on the street, the last time that I went to any kind of a program like this on the outs. And it was actually the start of my relapse, was lending money to a guy in the because he said to me, he needed it for, I don't remember what the story he gave me was a great story. So, and of course it was a lie. What he did was he bought dope with it. And when I called him on it, 30 minutes later, we were in the parking lot doing dope together. That doesn't make sense, right? Like the dumbest thing in the entire world. But that's just kind of how it worked. I'm not a big fan of in-person meetings for that reason. I mean, I probably would do better with 8 years sobriety, but as I was trying to get sober, I didn't do very well in it. One of the reasons, again, is setting boundaries, right? I shouldn't be shooting the crap with somebody in that meeting, outside of that meeting, right? There is no way that I should be kicking it with somebody from that meeting, outside that meeting. That's logical stuff. Logical stuff. Now, going through the prison system, I spent a lot of time talking with psychiatrists and psychologists, trying to get to what the heck I done? No problem. Trying to get to the bottom of exactly what causes my problems. Knock that off. That really becomes your main push. And you, over the course of 13 years, you might work with 20 of them. You might work with 40 of them. It just depends on, because they don't stick around very long. They tend to, or they use interns and they'll, you get one right after the other because they're trying to get these people enough hours or whatever the case may be. But it was not a great setup if you're actually trying to work through things, because ideally you're going to talk to somebody for an extended period of time and you're going to build some kind of a trust relationship, right? to really talk about things from your past that are going to be painful or going to drudge up emotions that you might not want to deal with alone, much less in front of somebody. You really got to trust the person that you're working with. So that dynamic, as that's going on in the BOP, I found out after the fact by talking to other professionals that nobody ever set boundaries of any kind. Like, I would talk about some of the treatments and I would, or some of the meetings and things that were discussed, and these people look at me and go, they asked you questions like, about, this or that, that's not done. Like, that should never happen. And then when I got out on the street, I've talked about my counselor from up north from Bristol-Combe before. She's a woman. She's a great counselor. And I had a really, really easy time talking to this person. But a great deal of what we talk about was the lifeboat. Right. And I remember probably the second meeting I had with this woman saying, so I'm sure you got a chance to look at the lifeboat. And she's like, no, I didn't go look at your channel. I'm like, why wouldn't you? Like, that seemed like a really stupid thing. And she's like, no, that would really be crossing, boundaries. That didn't make a lick of sense to me, but it does now. Right now, it's starting to make a whole lot of sense to me. And right before I started today's live, somebody had written, I think it was Henny that wrote it. It's very difficult to set boundaries, but the better that you get at it, the better off you're going to be going forward in your sobriety. And it is just a fact. And the dynamics of all of the different ways that you have to set boundaries is amazing, right? You have to set boundaries for family. You got to set boundaries for work. You sure got to set boundaries for friends. And we're drug addicts. So there is a whole new set of boundaries that we have to deal with that other people don't. For instance, if my substance of choice was alcohol, I would be pretty concerned about bars. I wouldn't want to be going in them. Okay. That wouldn't be good for me. If there were shooting parlors where you could just go up to the bar and get a needle and a spoon or whatever, probably not a place I ought to be going in. Right. Pretty logical stuff. Well, it's the same thing. If you're someone whose drug of choice comes in a bottle, I would probably not go into bars. And you know what? You do what you do. I'm just giving you my advice. It doesn't make a lot of sense, to go into a place that's got temptation like that. Now, I had a list of people that I knew when I was on dope. And to be honest, the vast majority of them are no longer with us because of overdoses and people getting locked up. And it's not a lifestyle that's conducive to longevity. So most of the people that I know that from that life are gone. But there are still the occasional, there's still every once in a while you'll see somebody be like, oh my goodness, that dude's still alive. But that is a very serious thing for me. I walk the hell away when I see somebody from my past. I do. It's no disrespect to them. You know what I mean? But I don't know where the person is. And honestly, if you're from my past, chances are, and you recognize me, it's not a situation where we like passed as two ships in the night, or we kind of knew each other. If you see me, we probably did dirt together and we probably did a bunch of dope together, right? I don't need to be near people who are still in that life. And I've been really open on the channel about it. My best friend started to use again. He didn't start using our drug of choice, but he started to get high again. And it's my best friend. But I talked to him, but I don't think it would be a really good idea to hang out with him. Right. And I was very open with him about that. And I'm not mad at you, bro. I'm just not very good at saying no to people that I'm friends with. If they're getting high, I kind of want to be a part of that. And that's been a problem for me for 3 decades. Right. So boundaries say I don't go around people who are getting high. More than likely, they have a better chance of getting me to slip than I got getting them to stop, especially while I'm there. You know what I mean? Like if you're a half a gram in, by the time I get to your place, there's not a really good chance you're going to stop sniffing blow, right? Until you run out of it. So I don't put myself in situations. That should be the most obvious of all boundary setting, right? That one should jump right off the page at you. Then you will realize as you start to get sober that you've heard me say often that sometimes I'll say right in the middle of a conversation, I'm not trying to bum you out. but I'm in recovery and something just, I got to get out of here. Right. Give me 10 or 15 minutes, but I got to get out of here. What's happening right now is threatening my serenity. And when my serenity gets threatened, my sobriety gets threatened. So, is it disrespectful? Yeah, it might be, but it beats prison, right? Or relapse or anything else. So that's setting boundaries for what you're willing to put up with, what you're willing to listen to, what you're willing to, there are people for whom political discourse, having any kind of a political conversation with somebody is going to cause them to get so riled up. I have friends like this, that there's one friend in particular that I went to high school with that he sent an email to every one of us, right? That just said, here are my views. If you don't agree with them, then get rid of me, block me, do whatever you do, because I don't ever want to talk to you again. And I read this thing going, you got to be woofing me. Well, that's setting some boundaries, right? You got to tip your hat to pimping. If all you were looking for was, how did the whole boundary setting thing goes? That man set boundaries. I think he probably went a little bit too far, right? I think echo chambers can be frightening. To listen to the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and every single person reinforcing that same thing over and over and over again gives you a different perspective. I think it's awesome that we can all come here and get together, no matter what our religion or our beliefs right, gender, sex, whatever.
That's what makes it beautiful. And you don't want anyone always agreeing with you. It's a horrible, scary thing.
Well, and the if there's one thing about drugs that doesn't suck, I mean, honestly, from an addict standpoint, because if you're not addicted to drugs, then drugs are fun, right? You have a great time. But if you're somebody that can't do them, the one thing that I'll say about drugs that is actually kind of a bonus is that there is just nobody that is immune. Right? There's nobody. I don't care how much cash you got. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what kind of sex you're into. Right? It doesn't matter what the hell you are or who you are in life. If it's got your number, it's got your number. And that's the opioid crisis was something that changed how we look at drugs in America. And the reason it did is because the people that started dying were white. I mean, if you just keep it real, right? The people that started dying in really nice towns and really small towns and really rural towns, and people that have no perspective at all on what the hell is this, right? People are dying from drugs in this town. There's 3,000. The town that I was born in, I don't think has 3,000 people in it. And I was watching a documentary about heroin addiction. And I was like, wow, it looks rural as hell. You know what I mean? And I'm looking and I'm like, actually, that looks like 106, like 106. And the next thing you know, they're honestly in the town that I was born in. And I remember doing some research when I had access to look at all of the different stuff in prison. You can look at statistics from crime real easy. It's a very easy thing to come across. But up until like 1980 something, there had never been a heroin arrest in the state. It's hard to wrap your dome around.
What year?
It was in the 80s, and now we are 300. It is the fastest growing state by percentage because it's a very teeny state, but it's growing faster than any other in overdose deaths, which is just terrifying. It is. It's absolutely terrifying. But you see the boundaries, sadly, have all been torn down, right? So the benefit is that now a lot of people are screaming about this, right? And there are a lot of people who, if you you may attack it a little differently if you lose a child and you've got a really nice camera setup or one that you can go buy. And there are some really phenomenal documentaries and things that have been done by families who have lost loved ones. And the message is getting out, right? It really is. And it's I went off on an absolute tangent, but it is the only bright spot to drug addiction is that it is absolutely colorblind, right? It doesn't care. And that does put us all in the same boat, which we've been saying now for a really long time, right? we are all in the same boat. And the longer that we're in this boat, the more we realize that a lot of the people that are in this boat didn't have drug problems. Got a beautiful email from a woman this morning. No drug problem at all. She had some loss where she lost 2 family members. And through growing up in Scientology, through Aaron's channel, found the Lifeboat, and very, very honest email said, when Aaron said, "This is the bank robber," she said she went, "Oh no." But she stuck around long enough to see that she found the subject matter more interesting than she thought she would, and then she came over to the boat. But you don't have to be addicted to drugs to need to heal. And there are a lot of people who are finding the Lifeboat that just need to heal. And you know what's cool is, with all due respect to all parties, everybody seems to have gotten on the same page. Like I felt like there was a little friction there for a hot minute, but everybody seems to have gotten on the same page that we really are all in the same boat. And I don't care how you get in it, but connection is what is going to save all of the people on this boat who are struggling, right, with trauma and with what that does to you for your life. Connection is the one thing that is going to save those people. And ironically, it's probably the only thing that could save this country and this world, right? It's a lack of connection. And if you can't see this, people, then you're blind. Sadly, it's the truth. If you can't see this, then there's something seriously wrong. But the more that we got into these and the less we stopped doing this stuff, the more screwed up we got. And you can tie it. Like, it's not difficult to do a dive on this. It doesn't take a long time, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. But start tracking. We're losing vocabulary. Does that blow your mind? It's never happened before. Since we began trying to figure out the whole talking thing, our vocabulary has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Right? We come up with more specified words. We invent things that need new words for them, right? They just continue to grow. Now we're shrinking it for a whole host of reasons, by the way. And some of them, we're not even on that road. Yeah. Well, right. What did you say? How many? 164 characters, right? How fast can we get this done? Now, there's a benefit to half of that, right? There really is. Like, this social media thing is all right. If you need somebody to talk to really quickly because you're thinking about getting wasted, this is probably the greatest tool in the entire world, right? This bad boy right here is instant help. If you really don't want to use, that's your answer right here. You can reach out to anybody instantly. And I promise you that if you make that call, you're going to stay sober. The people who call make that call because they want to stay sober. But if you want to use, you just don't make the call.
No, this is also the same device.
It is. Sadly, it's the same device. Now you can copy dope through Instagram. And isn't that lovely? But brings up questions, right? And it always comes back to the same thing. So you got kids, are they on Instagram? And if they are, like, how much do you monitor it? How much are you checking that out? You know what all that's called, right? That would be boundaries. Like, we're going to let you surf the web. However, the computer is going to stay on the kitchen table kind of thing. Families that do this. Like, if you're going to surf the web, I would rather that you don't do it somewhere where I can't see it. Now, that may seem like it's over the top. I promise you there are people out there right now, about 300 of them, just from yesterday, who are thinking, I wish maybe I had done something a little bit more over the top. Sadly, that's the world we're living in, right? If we don't put up, if we really don't start setting some boundaries, some guidelines that are going to protect the people that we love, protect ourselves, we're not going to have anything left to save. And I mean quickly, right? Quickly. So in your sobriety, I would recommend, it's just one guy talking, but I would recommend getting on that journal that I talk to you about all the time. And I would start writing down the names of people who have the ability to ask you to do something that you're not very good at saying no to. Right? Start with that at the top of the list. And that list gets big. I promise you. You don't think it is now, but I promise you, as you start to write these names down, you're going to go, holy crap. There are a lot of people for whom you will jump when they call. And I think the newer you are in sobriety, the bigger that list probably is. Because we want the world to know, like, I'm not the bank robbing, dirt bagging, lying guy anymore, right? So if you ask me to do something, even if I don't want to do it, right? Even if it means I'm going to probably not sleep as much as I should, right? Or, whatever. It means I'm going to have to take some time away from what I do in order to help someone do what they do. And that's getting sober. Well, that is what I do, right? I try to help people with that, or working within the whole peer support thing, right? All of that makes sense. But very often what happens is that this system really, in all honesty, should work because everybody here is in the same boat, right? And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a genius. I'm not splitting atoms. I'm not a guru. I promise you, I'm none of those things. I'm just a drug addict. And all of the people that you talk to on this boat have the potential to do the exact same thing, right? Truthfully, you want to help somebody, listen to them. I watched 2 shows yesterday on other channels where there were like a panel kind of a thing, where more than one person on the show talking, where if I took the 2 conversations and played them for you separately, like without the interaction, you would have absolutely no clue at all that these people were having a conversation. For real. And it was really obvious whose fault it was. But it was fascinating to watch. There was a person that wasn't listening. And they weren't listening while the world was watching, which is terrifying, right? I mean, I think we all do that in private because we get locked up on ourselves. But to see it done in public it's an uncomfortable feeling. I showed it to my brother. It was really, really uncomfortable. This connection and this communication and everything that we're trying to do here, it opens you up big time to a world that can get you frazzled at best and with a needle in your arm at worst. So you have to set up boundaries and you have to set up rules. And like talking to somebody outside of this, right? About this. So I can go to somebody else and dump all of my problems on somebody, right? That's a necessity. I think that I would go bat, crazy if I didn't talk to somebody about this. And probably more than once a week. Although once a week is a lock, it probably should be more than once a week, right? These are the kind of things that I need in place if I'm going to make it. But it also means that I need to go over that list of people that I'm bad at saying no to and get a game plan for each one of them. Because it may not be the same game plan for each one of them, right? Like there are some people that are just kind of dicks. I mean, sorry, but there are people that the next time they call and say, hey, man, I'd like to borrow your this, or I would like you to come over and help me with that. You can just go, you know what? No. Sorry. Got a lot to do today. Not doing that. Yeah. I think I've come over and helped you a few times. Nah, yeah. Right now, I'm kind of in the weeds. I got a lot I got to do. Boom. Then there are other people that you may need to finesse the crap out of. It might be a relative. You may have known this person every single day of your entire life, right? Or half of your entire life or whatever. It could be a significant other, right? Which requires a very different kind of boundary setting. Obviously, you would like to do everything you possibly could for your significant other, but there are people out there for whom that becomes the addiction, right? The whole codependency concept, I'm sure, is not foreign to most of you, but you can become addicted to a person or become addicted to that person's needs instead of your own. And it happens really often to people in recovery. And sadly, they tend to come together like magnets. Like I have a friend who has done this for as long as I have known him, has just gone from one woman to the next, who is every single time trying so hard to get this person to be something that he has no desire to be at all. And it's a horrific thing for the person that gets trapped in that cycle, because it is an addiction. It's no difference. You're right in the same boat. It's just I And you know what, people? If anybody did any super chats, I cannot see your chat today at all. Right. So as of right now, I cannot see this chat. So I apologize if I have missed anything. But you know what, people? I have found this is kind of a boundary. One of my problems is this: I'm no longer 30, and there was a time, people. I'm not kidding you, where my brain just worked differently. You know, there was a time when my brother's brain worked. I've told this story on the Lifeboat so many times, and I know that people struggle with this, but I watched my brother once. He had a headset on. He was talking to a guy, and I won't say the name of the pitch, but you were talking about selling sand, you know, how to sell sand in the desert, right? Whatever. And I'm listening to the pitch, and I know the part of the pitch that he's on. I've heard him do it a million times, right? We don't do the same pitch, but I've heard him do his. So I know about what point in the presentation. And when I walk in, he's reading a book. And I'm like, that makes less sense to me than anything I've ever seen in my life. Like, he's literally, and his mouth is talking. Like, that's as close to multitasking things that I had ever seen. I promise you, he could not do that today. I don't think.
Yeah, I can't.
He wears slip-on shoes now, and I think that's for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just using him to pick on to make an illustration, because what I'm really saying is this: there was a time in my life where I could have followed the thread of whatever I wanted to talk about, and you could drop an atomic bomb in front of me. We could have a conversation about what just happened, and I will get right back to that thread. And those days waved bye-bye. I can't do that anymore at all. And it's not the end of the world, right? I squirrel off. It's no big deal. It's a huge deal. And the reason it's a big deal is because a lot of my self-worth, sadly, I derive from this. And it's been that way for a very long time. It's not healthy. It's not. But my ability to communicate has been a very important part of who I have been for as long as I have been. So if I feel like I'm doing it bad, or if I feel like if it's a constant reminder that my brain is not as sharp as it was 6 months ago, or not as sharp as it was 3 months ago, or a year ago, or whatever, then I probably need to avoid it. So the new boundary here at the Lifeboat is that I'm probably just going to not have the chat running until really close to the end. And I'm going to do this for the purpose of keeping my head in this game so that I can do this longer. Everything that I am getting ready to do in terms of implementing boundaries on the Lifeboat is going to be done so that I can do this for a much longer period of time. Because I'm working with a new team almost of people that are trying to help me keep my head right. I'm getting considerably more help, professional help, than I used to, which is probably a really good thing. And as long as the federal government is willing to pay for a year, I say let's get all of it I can possibly get. Right? That's on their dime. That's what I got for all of those years in prison. I got 1 year of free healthcare. So yeah, I'm getting as much of it as I possibly can. And there's a recurring theme. It doesn't matter who I talk to, right? The recurring theme keeps coming back to: you do not take care of yourself, right? This is something that comes up again and again and again and again. And aside from the really obvious, like the stuff that he gets me to do, right? Which is just, I mean, it's just grown men acting stupid. But the where it becomes a problem, like that stuff's fun. You know what I mean? There's I have no problem with those kinds of boundaries. That's not the kind of beating the crap out of myself I'm talking about. I'm talking about sleeping 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day, right? I'm talking about rolling into shows that I shouldn't do. I've done shows where I am falling asleep. I've done shows where I think we did 5 of them in one day. We were doing an interview with Mark Wages, and we had also helped somebody move. You know, just stupidity because of my inability to say no, and my desire to make sure that if I say to the people on the Lifeboat that there's going to be a place that you can come and talk about sobriety a couple of times a day, I take it really freaking seriously. And unfortunately, what needs to come before that is my ability to sleep, eat, and take care of basic needs that sometimes I ignore. And then when we get that done, then we have to figure out exactly how much I can push the gray matter on top of that, right? So in the next 2 weeks, I will probably be talking more about this, especially as it relates to me as the captain of the lifeboat. And what I'm telling you is that all of this is designed to keep me here as long as humanly possible. But if I continued at the rate that I'm going, there's no way that I'm going to be around very long to continue doing this, because it is going to burn me out in a way that I won't be able to come back from. If you've been on the boat long enough, I got burnt out and took a month and a half off last year. And you know what? It wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy for the people on the boat. It wasn't healthy for me. It was not healthy for my co-host. It was really kind of a funny thing. The both of us sent texts to each other that crossed in midair. I'm not kidding you. Like, I fired off a text that just said, I can't do this. We got to get the boat going. And he was firing one off that said almost the exact same thing. And we just started laughing. And I do need this. This is a huge part of my sobriety. So I got a lot of comments, and it's probably because Dumb Boy's in town and I'm drinking fish. But I got a lot of comments from people who said, oh, no, the boat's going to go away. These guys are going to be, we're going to turn the lifeboat into the LAB show or something. I didn't post that video on this channel for a reason, right? That's right. And I have a really good time being a jackass with my brother. I really do. Don't let me fool you. You know what I mean? Like, I have a really good time doing stupid things with him, and I've been doing it a really long time, and we're going to continue to do it, but I got to set boundaries with that too. I got a laundry list of things that I just do not intend to ever eat. And yesterday, I think may have taken that whole eating the disgusting things. I think that was the top of the food chain. Where do you go from where we went yesterday? Probably not going to happen. But the reason that I didn't come on and go like this, all right, people, let's rip off a list of some boundaries here, huh? Right? And tell you everything that I got planned. Everybody would have a heart attack. For real. It would just sound really awful. I'm here to tell you that I'm going to be laying out some boundaries going forward so that everything runs smoothly. And I'm working with a group of individuals who have a handle on this. This is what they've been trained to encourage people like me to do, right? And by people like me, I don't just mean someone in recovery. I mean someone in recovery sitting in this chair, because apparently there are other people that experience very similar things. So this is not, and I'll be damned if there isn't actually a support group for people that kind of do this, which is pretty damn cool too, if you think about it. I see something green. Hey, Zen. Thank you, Zen. Appreciate you. And if I missed anybody else, I really, really apologize. But I know I haven't read a comment today.
It's a better show.
Yeah, no, it's a better show if I don't read a comment. But I'll tell you something. Without reading a comment, I can tell you that half of you are telling me how bad not setting boundaries is destroying you. Right? I promise you are. And I could rip off 6 names off the top of my head that I guarantee you not only are writing something like that, but I could probably almost guess what they're writing. Right? Now, the people that I'm working with, I'm going to continue to work with. So if you're somebody that I'm working with, don't think that this means I'm bailing. I'm going to be cutting down dramatically on how easy it is to get a hold of me. Because that it's going to keep me alive. The trouble is, and it's not a trouble, it's fantastic, but believe it or not, we are almost in every country in the world. The lifeboat is really, honestly, almost everywhere. It's astounding to me. It's so much bigger and more than, I mean, I'm not kidding people when I say that if I could save 6 people or get 6 people to quit doing drugs, that was going to be great. And then we would move on and try to get 6 more. I wasn't kidding, and that's why when people, I thought this thing was a success when we were doing 60 views a day. You know what I mean? So I sure as crap think it's a success now, but I would like it to continue to grow and to spawn more channels like it, and to get more people involved. And it's happening. Russ has got a channel that's good stuff, heavy. Mr. Dragon's got a great channel. There are people that and Mr. Dragon's monetized. Right? Good stuff. And it's just a positive message. And you know what? We're building a community of people who are supporting one another through trauma.
How beautiful is that? For real.
Can you imagine if you had tried to tell me that a decade ago? If you just walked into a cell and said, boy, have I got a story for you. Wait till I tell you what you're going to be doing in a decade. Oh, I would have gotten a laugh out of that one, people.
I couldn't have said it with a straight face.
No, you couldn't have. I was, but you never know what's going to happen. You know, we've said many, many times on the Lifeboat that when one person gets sober, it changes the entire world. And forget starting a channel or anything like that. If all you do is make it so that your child does not grow up with an addicted parent, you just changed the world forever. Your child is not going to marry the same way as that child would have if you spent the entire time addicted to drugs. I promise you. I promise you. Which means that there are great grandkids that you're never going to meet that your sobriety today is going to affect. And if you don't believe that, then with all due respect, get that tack hammer, right? And give yourself a good whack in the forehead with it. Because you are a jackwagon. Yeah, jackwagon. There you go. Candy corn, still in season. On Valentine's out. Means he ate like 2 kilos of candy corn since he left America. He's a sick man. I love him.
That's just to impress you. You gave that stuff away when you got off.
No, the funny thing is, the year before we sent a bunch of stuff over. He bought something. I remember how it happened, but he's like, "This is awful. Tastes like wax. This is the worst stuff in the world." So when we opened it and he was here, he's like, "I'm not eating that stuff. It's terrible." I'm like, "Try it. It's fresh. Like this stuff isn't waxy.
It's fresh." You bumped your head.
Oh, you got addicted to it. You can say whatever you want. You got
This is
addicted to it.
fresh. Well, that makes a huge difference.
Give that a try.
No,
And then apologize to me.
No, I'm not eating that. I won't do it. I'll tell you, eat some Vegemite. Give me some more of those. We'll eat some Vegemite this morning.
Dude, sugar to Vegemite. Really? That's where you're going to go with
Vegemite
this?
is delicious.
No, it's really
It's
not.
the nectar of the gods.
This is sugar. No one doesn't
I'm
like
not
sugar.
eating this.
Well, then why do you have a handout? He goes like this. I put candy corn. He's like, "I'm not eating this." I'm telling you, you ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. Eh?
Pick that up. You gotta show what she's doing.
Squirrel doing the paw clean. Good kid. So once again, people, this is a recurring theme on the Lifeboat. You're going to see this come up again and again and again and again. And one of two things is going to happen. It's going to annoy you to the point where you go, all right, screw it. And you're going to buy a book and you're going to start journaling. Or you're going to be smart enough to just start journaling now. For real. I got to assume that you're not here, right? Well, it's probably about 9 of you here, right? And thank you. I appreciate you guys. Going on 2 solid years of just being, never missing anything. And of course, I'm talking about the people that don't like me, right? That don't miss any show. But the rest of you are here for one reason. And that reason is you would like to be a better version of who you are right now, right? This version of who you are, you're not pleased with, or you wouldn't be here, right? You don't come to the Lifeboat for other reasons. I'm not particularly entertaining.
Oh, you are.
Well, when not drinking fish, right? I'm not particularly entertaining. What we're talking about here is, it's not always feel-good subjects either. Sometimes this is rugged stuff to listen to. Can't count how many times we've been talking about something and someone in the chat will go, "Yep, too much for me today. I got to bail." And I love that, right? I love that you all are smart enough to say, this. I don't need to listen to an hour of this, right? This is not going to be good for my serenity. Fantastic. Bail. There's no way you can do a show when you got 10,000 addicts where I'm not triggering a couple of hundred on every single show. Sadly, that's kind of the way it goes. But you just got to be smart enough to bail off if I'm saying something that's making you uncomfortable, right? You know what we call that? I would be setting boundaries. And you can set them here on the boat because I may talk about something that bums you out. If I start talking about something that bums you out, leave. Because if I say something, right, that bums you out, that the magic of this isn't here, right? It's in the comment section with all of the people there that are supporting one another. So if I say something that's starting to bum you out, get away from me for a while so that you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You know, sadly, I'm sure that there are people that walk away from this channel because they don't like me, and I'm not really the show. If you stick around long enough, you'll figure that out. But if you don't stick around long enough, there's not much we can do to help you. But that's setting boundaries, right? Like if that subject is too much, I'm not going to stick around. I'm not going to listen to it, and I'm going to get off of it. Have a plan, right? Setting boundaries is not enough to say, okay, well, I'm not going to do this. Well, then what happens when he shows up, right? If that person is the person that you're, you know, I can't go near him. Okay, do you have a plan for what happens when he shows up? Well, no. Great way to plan, honestly. Try picking up a pen and getting a piece of paper and start writing stuff down on it. You'd be really surprised the power that there is when you write. And we go over this all the time, but I'm going to do it again. And it's beating a dead horse, and it is. I promise you it is. But you understand that if I just sit here and think, right, no matter what the thought process happens to be, if I want to get that thought from up here, right, down through the tip of this and onto that paper, I have to engage a completely different set of gears in the mind, right? Guaranteed. Now I've got to tell my arm what to do. And when you start doing all of this, it can move parts of where thoughts start to get generated from. You'd like to spend a little bit more time away from making decisions based purely on emotion. Right? I don't know that I've ever made a good decision while really like heated in any direction, like really angry or really happy or really, if your emotions are running wild, you're probably, it's probably not the ideal time to make a decision. My dad, I swear to you,
Right.
never once said anything
Right.
dumb to me. You don't realize it when you're a kid because
you're gonna say.
yeah, because up until about the age of 16, you realize that your father knows nothing, right? And then from the age of about 16 to 21, you start getting this sneaky suspicion that he's a hell of a lot smarter than you thought he was. And right around 21, I came to the realization that I could not think of anything that man ever advised me on or ever said that was wrong. Like he never gave me a bad piece of advice, which is kind of frightening.
Ironically, he's gotten smarter every day since he's passed.
Right?
Every day he's smarter than me.
Yeah, since he passed away, he's actually getting considerably smarter.
Every day.
But one of the mantras that he used to really beat into us was about making decisions, right? And one of the things that he said to me, I remember calling him one night, and I was really having a bad time. And I mean, these are the history books now, so it doesn't much matter. But I called my dad and I said, I am out of here. And he said, out of where? I said, this marriage. I can't do this. I'm gone. And he said, okay. But I wouldn't make that decision tonight. And I said, why not? And he said, because it always looks a little different when the sun comes up, right? When the sun comes up the following morning, your problems never look exactly like they did the night before. And yeah, well, I was, I think, 4 years married at that point when I made that call. And suffice to say, it went a lot longer than 4 years. But you got the same phone call, yeah.
Verbatim.
Yeah.
Same issue.
Yeah, I would imagine. But you know, it's small things like, and that is a boundary that I have set in my life. I promise you, I do not make decisions if it's dark out.
Not a big one.
Yeah, I don't do very well with it. I don't. And you know what else? I don't make a decision the way any of you do. I promise. If you do dope every day for 30 years, you're going to end up rearranging some stuff in the dome, right? And it may not work exactly the way it used to, right? Under the best of circumstances, it's definitely not going to, work the way it used to. But so the journal becomes a really big deal because now I'm not just writing; I'm organizing. Right? My thoughts as you get older, sadly, your brain doesn't arrange things as well as it used to. And when you start putting stuff down on paper, the old Ben Franklin close. Everybody's familiar with this as a concept. Trying to make a decision. Should I move or should I not? Should I take this job or should I not? Right? Should I date this girl? Should I not? Whatever your issue is, take a piece of paper, right? Draw a line down the middle of it. Then on one side, you write all the reasons that this might be a really good idea, right? Buying a Ferrari. Reasons this would be a good idea. It's a cool looking car, right? Looks cool. Ladies like them. There's a couple, right? Now you get over on that other side. Sadly, they're about $400,000. And they don't run very long before a tune-up, which costs a crap load of money. And it doesn't come with a spare tire. Like you can really start ripping off a huge laundry list of why it might not be a great investment to buy a Ferrari. They depreciate 60% in value when you drive them off the showroom floor. Right? They lose more than half of their value as soon as you start the engine and drive it out. Long list. Right now, if you were logically to look at that, you might count them up and say, all right, I'm not going with a Ferrari. But sadly, we make decisions very often out of emotion, which means it doesn't matter how many are on the this is a really bad idea side. You're probably going to do it anyway.
Fun fact, I've heard Ben Franklin had nothing to do with that, but it's still a good close.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I did here.
So you're just going to pee on something that I've been working on?
Listen, I know.
Do you have any idea the number of times on stage I have said Ben Franklin close?
Me too.
Wow.
Me too.
How
I don't
embarrassing.
know if it's true.
Who told you this?
I don't know. We Google it right now.
I hate it when anytime there's nothing worse. I'll tell you a funny one, people.
It's like the little
no.
to the market.
No, I got the best one, especially if you're a speaker. Everybody has heard this. The one of my all-time favorites, right? The sincere, right? Without wax.
Right.
And how the term sincere. Problem is there's absolutely no truth to that.
Really?
Yeah, none. You look up the etymology of that word, there was zero truth to that. And
you liar.
Oh boy.
People are lying because of you. They're spreading that lie.
Hundreds of thousands.
I've heard you do it 100 times.
Oh yeah.
I always believed it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. That is reinforcing the wrong thing. All righty, people. You know what? It's Sunday morning. Zen, thank you so much. You really are incredible. Z-Dub's been just supporting the channel. I mean, for an eternity. I think I just read 9 months. But thank you so much, Zenwan. I really appreciate you. And to everybody that gets up this early in the morning to hang out with the good captain. And there's Zen again. Zenwan, pace yourself, hon. Pace yourself. You know what? Set boundaries, ZW. Tell him Johnny Vegemite is in fact the nectar of the gods.
Yes.
Security. 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 Somebody get this Andrew fella. He's stark raving mad.
The funny thing is the pictures that he sent us.
The Free Xenu Project. You are one man. You have to set boundaries and take care of yourself first, or you can't help anyone. Yeah. And you know what? I love every good cliche about that because they're all fantastic, right? You got to put on your mask before you can put on anyone else's, right? Dig it. It's a great one. Absolutely love it. And then there's the other one that says, you can't pour from an empty vessel. It's a pretty good one too.
You can't steer a parked car.
What?
You can't steer a parked car. It's a beautiful one.
Did you just make that up on the spot?
No.
No? Kind of sounds like you made that up on the spot.
Not at all. And rest easy. Turns out Ben Franklin was a big fan of the pro and con list, although he never just, people made that after him. They said, hey, Ben used to do this. So they called it the Ben Franklin list.
Yeah. Jeanette Alley Squires. What a great name. Jeanette Alley Squires. Thank you so much, Jeanette. There's somebody else that has a name that sounds just like that. Do you know, your brains, this should be firing on you the same way it's firing on me. Why is this name got Jeanette Alley Squires? Who it's reminding me of somebody that we know, but I can't think of who it is. Do you know?
Never had that weird feeling.
Okay, me too. ZW. Boundaries, pacing yourself. Right? And you know what, people? That happens too. I mean, honestly, I know that there are a lot of you that would like to just do that every single day, right? Like to pop off $50-$60 every day because it would just really help, wouldn't it? But you got to set boundaries for all of that stuff. If you're not taking care of you first, please don't give me $1. Right? We want to help people, but the first person you need to help is you. And I'm so bad at that. So bad at that. But on the bright side, for the first time in a really long time, I've got so many of you. Yeah, Zen, you're out of control. For the first time, I've got so many people who are saying things like, Tommy, you really need to take care of yourself. Tommy, you really need to take care of yourself. Tommy, you really need to take care of yourself. And I realize that I do, people. I really do. And I am going to set boundaries on that, I promise you. And I'm going to be bleeding them out to you over a period of time so that it doesn't sound bad. You're probably not going to notice, especially if you just got here. You're not going to notice the difference. You're not. It's people will talk about the good old days where I didn't miss an email or a comment, but those days I just wish I could do it. I can't. There's no hope. There really isn't. And the sad thing is that I have been busting on content creators for so long for saying that dude doesn't answer any of his comments, right? Dude doesn't answer emails. That's kind of a low life. I just can't do it. You know, I look at the size of some of the audiences that people have, and no wonder I can't get a hold of anybody, right? No wonder. It's a difficult thing, but I love you guys, and we're going to continue to do what we do here. I'm back onto the normal schedule for this Sunday, so you know what that means. And I will be seeing all of you. Yeah, he's lurking. He's doing fine. He's definitely doing fine. All he needed was a couple of bags of IV fluid. And I want to tell you something, people. I know everybody panics, and let me tell you how common this is in this state. You can save a ton of money if you start feeling the same way. You can call a local company that will come out to your house, and for $150, they'll run those IV bags into you at your home, so that you don't have to go down to the hospital and pay 25 grand or whatever they're going to end up hitting you for. So yeah, it's so common that honestly there are businesses that just go out to rehydrate people. And in this state, it's usually somebody that drank too much the night before. It's like a hangover cure. Just give me a bag of IV fluids. Not an option for me. Running an IV is a little bit tougher on cats and Tommy. All right, everybody. Half of you I will see over on the other side, and the rest of you I will see this evening at 5 o'clock. Live at the 5, right? Have a great day, everybody. I'm off to church. Pray for my soul. Have a great day.